This bubble don't pop. This party won't stop. If they wanna come shut it down, they better call the cops. This bubble just don't pop. Na 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 na.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're covering the Netflix anime movie Bubble, which pretty much burst after 10 minutes.
Now, this movie was really hyped up at the beginning of 2022, but after its release, it really dropped in popularity afterwards, and Twitter didn't even talk about it, and we can see why.
And before we start with that, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get some future podcasts and multi-pause videos.
Now, we're certain there are some people that enjoyed it, but for the most part, this movie was not what it was presented as. It didn't have the meaty writing that was needed to flesh it out and make it something that told a story.
Right.
Parkour was what the movie
Oh my
was.
goodness.
It should have just been called Parkour.
Parkour the movie.
It shouldn't have been called Bubbles. It should have been called Parkour. And then the Bubbles would have been an additional storyline within it.
Right.
And that would have worked and not presented it as something that it wasn't.
Right. So, for the storyline, or really not too much of a story, it's really more of the basis of this, is that they have mysterious bubbles. Yes, they aren't really sure where they came from.
Some
Mysterious-
are blue and some are red.
Yeah, and they come down from the sky and they're all over the world. And then they start multiplying and multiplying. And for some reason, I guess because the movie was made in Japan, they really had a hard focus on Japan, where it encased either an entire city or the country.
It was Tokyo.
Yeah, the entire city of Tokyo in Japan. It was the only one that was encased in a dome. Everywhere else, the bubbles later dissipated and it was fine because we thought it was a post-apocalyptic world. No, just that city is post-apocalyptic. And people that live there, most of them moved out because there was no way for them to get really any sort of resources or anything.
Because it was, like you said, post-apocalyptic. You had buildings destroyed, some were left, houses destroyed, and all the debris was still there. It was like a bad Godzilla movie.
Right. And then the ones that did stay were the people that did not have homes, so they just, I guess, leveled up and then started a parkour gang, and now they do these parkour races to compete to win supplies and things they need to survive.
If you've seen Legend of Korra, it's like when they did the competition.
Yeah. The pro bending.
Yes, it's like pro bending. That's what it's like. You had the rival gang, parkour gangs, no kidding.
Yes.
And they had rivalries, and some were evil, and some were mean, and they had animal names and other names and death names. So it was like Legend of Korra on steroids.
Yeah. So the main character, who's unfortunately is a little forgettable.
But the best thing about him, he's voiced by Zach Avalar, who's no other than Tanjiro Kamado.
No, Gunpachiro Kamado!
Demon Slayer. That was the biggest and nicest surprise. And kept listening. We're like, he sounds familiar. His voice didn't match the body. And then when at the end, we're like, oh my gosh, it's Tanjiro!
Yes.
So that was the biggest and nicest surprise of this movie.
Yes. And it's pretty much just his life there. You kind of know what happened to the mother. It's kind of, she kind of abandoned him, or you're not sure. After the bubbles came, she disappears, so you don't know what happened. And I guess he's been going on by himself or raised by somebody else. And he's probably going to doing his own thing. And it's like, it's not really strong. It's not like really something that really gravitates you towards the character or a conflict or anything. He's a fantastic parkour guy without trying. His clothes no longer fit him, but he's still wearing them.
He's like Generator Rex. When you watched the series and he had the same clothes, you were wondering why were his clothes fitting him perfectly? Were they altered? Were in here the clothes weren't altered?
Yeah,
his pants had gone from his ankles to his knees.
Yeah.
The jacket was from his wrist to his elbows.
Right.
Just like Generator Rex should have been. This is how this character ended up.
Right. And he meets this, when he's almost drowning, he's saved by a girl who I think was made of bubbles.
She came from the bubbles.
Yeah, she came from the bubbles and saved him.
Of course she falls for him.
Right, because reasons. Well, actually, the reason is that you find out as the movie goes on this is supposed to be a reimagining of the Hans Christian Andersen book, The Little Mermaid. Not the movie from Disney, the actual book, which has more of a bittersweet ending. So you already know this movie's gonna end with that. And they tell the story, and this is supposed to be paralleling that. So this was their really out there take on Little Mermaid. She was supposed to be Ariel, and the guy was supposed to be the prince, even though there was absolutely no reason to be appealed by him, which was just like the Little Mermaid anyway. So
Yes.
it's like, when she knows nothing about it, but I love him. Why? And it pretty much is just them hanging around and finding out the secret behind the bubbles, which you do find out later. And then it starts escalating to this big end of the world scenario. Some of the bubbles are evil, like you said, the red ones are trying to take over and take out all the people in Tokyo, and they gotta save them. And that's why they're trapped in the dome for so long. And yeah, it just kind of goes from there. You really just have to watch it if you really are interested. The biggest issue for us is that it was so uninteresting and so slow. It took us 3 days to finish the movie. Not just because of how the service is and lagging because of things outside of our control. It's only like, what, an hour and a half? Or an hour and 40 minutes. And it feels like you're watching a 3-hour movie. And there was one point we fell asleep on it. And we had to either rewind it or figure out what was going on, because by the time we woke up, it was on the action and we didn't know what was going on. We had missed 10 minutes of the movie because almost nothing was happening.
Now, there are some good things about it. The animation's absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
It's beautiful to look at. The parkour was stunning.
Yes.
How they made it was so fluid, and the characters looked like they really were humans moving.
Yes.
It didn't look like it was animated. It had fluidity that was fantastic.
Right.
That was great as well. And again, Zach Aguilar as the main MC was fantastic. We were happy about that. And the music was really good.
Yeah, that's true. They had a lot of catchy, well, they didn't have musical numbers, but the background stuff
Yes,
was
definitely.
really well made, and it fit with the theme of trying to be a relaxing, a chilling type of music, which fit kind of like B&A.
It was like parkour the infinity. That's
Yeah.
what it was supposed to have a feeling of.
Right.
And last but not least, I do like how all these people who had been, as you said, put out, some of them had lost parents, they were orphans, people with no homes, they had formed these families as they formed these parkour
That's true.
teams.
Yeah.
And they had become families who depend on each other, who loved each other, who would risk everything to save each other.
Right.
That part about it, I really, really did love.
Yes.
So those are the great things that I found about this particular movie.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the writing and the pacing and the I don't want to be mean.
it's
the
not-
uninspired storytelling of the rendition of The Little Mermaid made it not as enjoyable as it could have been.
Yeah, at least, to us.
Right.
There might be some of you out there who actually really love the movie, consider underrated. I love underrated movies, but this just didn't do it for me or either of us.
Now, if you've seen it, let us know what you think in the comments below. If you haven't, Bubbles is available exclusively on Netflix. And give it a watch. Come back and tell us if you agree or not. And if not, let us know what are the things we missed that we could appreciate more. Maybe we should watch it again. Let us know.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly videos on your favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. And stay away from the bubbles. According to this movie, stay away
From
from
the bubbles. Don't pop them!
Bubbles.
So, thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.